and Cambodia.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pardon my voice, but I'm glad I have a voice back. First, I'd like to thank the organizers, David and his whole team, especially Luna, for taking care of everything perfectly. By training, I'm in humanities. I really appreciate the opportunity to be welcomed to this wonderful, invigorating community of religion studies. The title of my paper is not so accurate in the program. So the title of my paper is Buddhism as Spectacle, Performing Nationhood in Cambodia and China. I also want to apologize to our discussant in advance because my paper deals with primarily the two shows in China. But after I read the program and then I decided to focus more on the show in Cambodia. So what I'm gonna talk about in my presentation probably is not covered in the paper. This paper examines the spectacular performances featuring Buddhism at popular tourist spots, such as UNESCO says in China and Cambodia, and specifically how these spectacles embody Buddhism to appeal modern gaze and how those performances fit in the operation of culture industry in a consumer-oriented global society. This paper is based on my fieldwork to the Buddhist sites along the Belt and Road, including Dunhuang in Gansu province and Putuo in Zhejiang province, and also Siem Reap in Cambodia. I basically investigate how Buddhism is rediscovered and refashioned to encapsulate the cultural heritage and nationhood in the two countries. So these three images are from the three shows. The first one on the left is from Impression Putuo. The middle one is Encore Dunhuang, Youjian Dunhuang, and the right one is from The Smile of Encore, Wu Ge de Weixiao. The vast majority of popular tourist spots in China nowadays feature at least one performance, either set in a real scene like Shijing, converted from the natural landscape, or a custom-made theater within the vicinity of the tourist sites. This trend started about 2 decades ago, heralded by the internationally acclaimed director Zhang together with Mei Shuaiyuan and Wang Zhaoge. So here, I provide a list of the impression series. By the way, anybody watched any of these shows, you know, 印象丽江, 印象刘三姐, 印象 da 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 da. Good. So I underlined the one I'm going to discuss. I also came up with a map talking about spatial dimension so that we can have a very vivid impression about the distribution of these performances. So on the left, you can see where those shows are located. And the purple ones belong to the impression series, and there's also intersection. For example, the last one, you know, impression Chinese music, 印象国乐, is not set in the real scene, but in a theater. So you know, this kind of like my third is more aesthetic and less defined by the actual theatrical space. So you can tell. You know, the green one is in Malaysia, is Encore Malacca, 六件马六甲. And then you can see the Smile of Encore in Siem Reap in Cambodia. And there's also another one called Ho An Memories in Hue An, Vietnam. So, so the Encore series, developed by Wang Zhaoge. So there are so far 5. There's also, I put it here, like 印象, Encore Wu Taishan, 六件 Wu Taishan also features Buddhism, because Wu Taishan is a very famous Buddhist shrine of the Bodhisattva of Buddhism, Wenshu Pusa. So here is the production team. You can see there are different combinations because the original one, the first one, 印象刘三姐, in Lijiang, Guilin, Guangxi province. So the triangle includes Mei Shuaiyuan, Zhang Yimou, and Wang Chaoge. And later, Mei Shuaiyuan and just split. Zhang Yimou and Wang Chaoge, they include Fan Yue. So these three in the middle, they form so-called, iron triangle. So if you go to Lijiang, Yunnan province, you will see a lot of posters on the way to the theater of these three people. And later on, Zhang Yimou pretty much kind of withdraw after the fourth in the series, but he still served normally as a consultant. And then Wang Chaoge and Fan Yue, they work together on Impression Putuo, but later on they also split. I actually tried to approach Wang Chaoge for an interview, and her assistant just time schedule and something. I just feel like she was not so motivated to meet with me, and but I think it's a little trivial to ask her, like, why did you split? But we can tell primarily the I think the economic reasons, because this is such a large stake. Everybody wants to have a big slice, and so all of them except Zhang Yimou, they all had it to their own way to have their own shows. So Mei Shuaiyuan is very active, so he actually directed the one in Vietnam, and Wang Chaoge directed the one in Malaysia, and the one in Siem Reap, the Smile of Angkor. Actually, there is no single director. The authorship, the directorship is really interesting, right? So the credit goes to Yunnan Cultural Investment Corporation. So this is a collective entity. Doesn't that remind us of the socialist production? Because these shows seemingly they are completely apolitical. It doesn't touch upon any political issues, and there's not even a real coherent narrative. But it's just based on the mode of production and also the aesthetics. We can still establish certain solid ties between the socialist theater and the post-socialist theater. So here's another one by Mei Shuaiyuan. It's called Zen Shaolin Grand Music Ceremony at Shaolin Temple. This one actually is the one actually losing money, just because it doesn't attract enough tourists. So the more they stayed this show, and then the more money they lost. So they stopped at some point. I didn't follow up on whether they resumed it after COVID. So this is the Smile of Angkor. The producer is Yunnan Cultural Investment Group, premiered in 2020. So far, they have staged over 1,000 shows and 100 million audiences. So Smile of Angkor received awards from both Chinese and Cambodian governments. So it's a very holistic experience. It does not only include a show, it also includes like a meal. It's a buffet. It's a Chinese dining hall. So here you can see like, the core, the decorations, the lanterns, and then, all of the Chinese characters are reminding like, each time you can only have like 2 pieces of the like a barbecue skewer and a lot of Chinese dishes, right? So even though the Smile of Angkor was premiered in 2010, 3 years before the BRI, right? Belt and Road Initiative. But in the publicity and marketing, it's always labeled. You can see here the hashtag, Angkor Belt and Road. This is a very kind of like, effective way to promote. So this, you can see the subtitle here. At daytime, Angkor Wat shocks you. At night, Smile of Angkor moves you. So underlying, shocks and moves, these verbs really stress like, the effects impact on the body, like, really emphasize the sensorial feelings experience. So here you can see, I just, I will not show any video clips because it really takes time. So we know Cambodia has a long, a very rich tradition of all sorts of dances. So here are only the highlights of different kinds of dances. These three shows in Southeast Asia, Smile of Encore, 2010, and then the Hoan Memories in Hui'an, 2018 by Michel, and what's the other one? Encore Malaysia by Wang Chaoge, also 2018. So actually, the Hui'an Memories by Michel, the original title is 越南往事, the past of Vietnam. You can see how ambitious the show is, right? And they're trying to kind of just showcase the whole history of Vietnam, and later a little bit humble, and then localized, Hui'an memories. So and I just give you a kind of like, an overview of my observations. So all these performances share the common characteristics: installation, singing and dancing, other than narrative, underlying the collective rather than individual, stressing more glory than defeat, and conveying a pride than shame. So my analysis revolves around the intersection of Buddhism as a cultural capital and tourism powered by financial capital against the transnational flow of cultural forms and consumers. I argue that, consumerism has shaped Buddhism as a theatrical spectacle in both China and Cambodia. And the Chinese packaging of Cambodian nationhood through the Smile of Encore unravels the penetration of Chinese soft power that suggests a new form of imperialism. I just show, my Trump card, right? Because I realized, like, if I drag until the end, I may not have time. So I just throw out the key. So the quote is too long here. I won't read every line, but I just want to highlight, you can tell, the method is inspired by Guy Debord's society of spectacle of the society. Basically, the spectacle, a class of images taking over the reality. So, the quote from Wang Chaoge is like, in the director's words, so she said, when you come to visit Dunhuang, don't go to Is it better? Okay. So you can tell Wang Chaoge the ambition, she really kind of like, targets her own show to replace the reality, the real history. So this is my point. And so I just quickly move on to the conclusion. I just highlighted, the bullet points here. I'll explain a little bit. So basically two things. One thing is the cultural brokerage and agency. So I'd like to introduce the concept of culture broker to understand the relationship between the local culture, the directors / producers, and the spectacles. A broker is an individual or entity that acts on intermediary or middleman between two or more parties to facilitate transactions, negotiations, or interactions. And culture broker usually refers to the intermediary, be it individual or organization, facilitating communication, understanding, and collaboration between different cultural backgrounds. So art shows gave priority to the audience's experience, emphasizing their sensorial reception enhanced by the technology. So the local culture is subject to adaptation, alteration, and adulteration for the sake of recipient's feelings. The immersive format, no boundary between the actors and audiences, and also praying together, this kind of participatory nature. So in the conversion from local culture to the spectacle, the director acts on the interest of the audiences. So the local culture's agency is mostly lost to the pursuit of capital gain. Another point I really want to highlight is technology and totality. So I call this kind of performance, I name it as total theater. The concept can be traced back to Wagner's the artwork. And then pretty much, and so here the total theater, I really want to emphasize, the technological part, using the lighting, the sounding, multimedia, and also this is something China is so proud of, the techno modernity. So here I think I really want to, and also, here using total theater, I really want to connect to the totality and also the totalitarianism. I have to say one last concept, the cultural appropriation in the production, not only in China, but also especially in Southeast Asian countries, it should be really alarmed in the spread of Chinese soft power through BRI. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Enhua, for this very thought-provoking presentation. And finally, I would like to invite the last presenter for today, Joseba Estévez, with a presentation entitled "The Giant Guanyin That Never Was, the BRI and Religion in the Realpolitik of South Thailand." Please.
Hi, everybody. We are almost done in the last one. So just bear with me 15, 20 minutes, and then we can go drinking and having fun. My topic is about the statue that doesn't exist yet. We don't know if it will exist ever. I just returned from the field work. I came back last week, so it's a very fresh and raw presentation. I didn't have time to write any paper yet. I'm working on all the different dimensions, and this is a grab together of my fundings, my research. My visit this time makes exactly the 20th anniversary of my first visit to Songkhla, to this region. So I was there in August 20 years ago, and I'm coming back now to the same place for this particular research. And it makes 1 year from the protest that I'm going to talk about soon. The statue, as you see it in the first picture, is a 3D model that was used to present the project to the public. And the picture on the right is the picture I took last week. Is exactly how the statue is being right now. We don't know if it's a performance or it's going to be a real statue, but we will discuss that during the presentation. This is the issue as it appeared in the media 1 year ago, exactly on the 4th of August. 400 mosques convened together, bringing 4,000 people to protest against the construction of a Buddhist statue in South Thailand. The case is a little bit shocking when we just read it directly, because usually Muslim communities in Southeast Asia do not protest against other religions, and especially not in Thailand. There is a lot of protest between local communities in terms of Buddhist communities complaining about the noise of the columns, or other communities complaining about others, but not to this level. The picture on the right is when I visit the mosque, and I was interviewing the people there. So it is exactly for a couple of weeks ago. The test, as you can see from the two banners in the front of the mosque, is totally against the construction of this Guanyin statue. So I'm going to present the case, and then we will see that the statue has little to do with the protests. It's something that goes much beyond, and we will bring many dimensions of ethnicity, religion, the One Belt One Road, and the role of China in this particular region of Thailand. So here is where I am working, is the Songkhla province nearby, the Songkhla, the capital of the province. And I do different zooms and you can see the region. The particular space in which the statue is going to be located. All these areas, we will see soon in other pictures, is basically empty. The promoter is a company, is one of the most important and richest companies in Thailand. The statue is supposed to be the tallest statue in the world. Is planned to be 200 meters. It is not clear at this stage if this is the tall, taking the small healing which is going to be constructed and the platform. Because the last information I got from the company is that the statue was going to be 136 meters tall, which it is still a lot. It is twice the size of most of the Guanyin statues, the tallest ones that exist at this time. The company, it is a small group that belongs to one of the largest companies in Thailand. The owner is in the top 50 of the fortunes in the country, so we are talking about the big money. It's the third larger cement manufacturer, which makes sense because the statue is going to need a lot of cement and they are the producers, and the company is in Songkhla, is nearby, so the cost is going to be very reduced. They also offer gas service, which will be important when we see the role of this company in the Realpolitik of Thailand later on. The motto of the company, it is in the line of taking care of the future, being green and sustainable, which is almost the opposite of what they do. And then we see this last line, which is going to be important too. There is a plans to change the technology in Thailand because of the cost of gas. At this moment, there is a war, as you know, going on in Ukraine, and the price of gas really escalate, which makes the prices very high. So Thailand is now trying to be sustainable in terms of gas. As per reference for this project, the company has two other Guanyin statues in mind. One is the one in Sanya, in Hainan, in China, and the other one is in Chiang Rai, in Thailand, northern Thailand. I have a picture of the one we have in Hong Kong. If you have the chance, please try to go and visit. It's a wonderful statue. The case in Chiang Rai has been an example of how landmark tourism can totally transform a space. It is not only a statue. I mean, the statue is magnificent, but there is a whole project, including the white temple, the blue temple, the black temple, visiting the ethnic groups in the mountains. So when we go to Chiang Rai, there is a lot of things to do, but one of the magnets, one of the main landmarks to come and visit this region is this giant Guanyin statue. And this is what they try to replicate in the south. This is the south right now. This is the views from the square. As you can see, there is nothing there. It's an amazing place. It's 4 or 5 kilometers of white sand, absolute no tourism. It's just a few locals living there. So it is a totally empty land. And then the idea is to transform this in a tourist entertainment region similar to Phuket, Pattaya, and other places in Thailand, which obviously is not really appreciated by people who is living there at the moment. The construction is at the bottom. You can see the cranes, and more or less, this is what you will find if you go now. This is on a daily basis. This is how the construction is going now. The access is totally blocked to the public because there were a lot of attacks. Locals were sabotaging the construction. So it has been surrounded, there is security. So the access was quite limited. I was using a south path and asking permission. So I was allowed to enter almost to the core of the construction. which I would say is not really looking like it's going to host a 200 meters high statue. The funding, the base is very basic. On the sides, on the bottom, there is ongoing resorts. The promoter has already purchased land from locals. They are building already resorts. So the plan is, once the statue is built, transform the whole area into high-end resort entertainment and with restaurants and bars, and really turn out the whole corner of this particular area. So at the beginning, we saw there was a very strong protest against this particular project. One might think is because local people don't like statues, but what we see is that there is plenty of them. There is huge Buddhas, there is a huge Guanyin not far away. There is dragons, that's me. Elephants, there is the Chinese Buddhism in the region, so we will find Jade Emperor and a lot of different statues representing different deities, and all of them are very well accepted. So the statue was not the issue per se. I say, except for the Golden Mermaid, we will come back to that at the end of the presentation. The complexity of the area, it is quite high. It's a very conflictive region, not from now, but from centuries now. The statue is going to be built in the borderland between the Thai and ethnically Malay, Thai by nationality, Muslim populations. It's exactly at the border. You remember there was in a corner. In the meeting in between these main communities in the region. The majority of the population in this area is Buddhist, 30% is Muslim. Depending on the places where we are checking the ethnicity, what we have is an 80% of Muslims, and this is the case where the statue is going to be built. There's a majority of Muslim communities, and there is no Buddhist people. That is one of the reasons that the locals are opposing this statue, because it's like you have a whole province. Why to put this statue in this particular location where we are, all of us are Muslims? The community in Songkhla is Songkhla was founded by Chinese traders who left China and moved with the ancestors' tablets to this particular location. It's a quite unique case because what we see is the city pillar, which is basically the heart of the community, is inside of the Chinese temple. City pillar is here. So when we go to Songkhla, we will find a lot of Chinese heritage because it was a Chinese polity. Originally, the original location was founded by a Muslim Persian leader. It was depending on the Ayutthaya kingdom until they tried to become independent from the Ayutthaya kingdom, and then Ayutthaya conquered the polity and basically destroyed it. It remained almost abandoned for several years until refugees, Chinese traders running away from China, arrived into this particular region and settled there. And they were very efficient in trading. They were very prosperous, so they become quite quickly a hub for trading, to the point that they were the head of this group was designated governor of the new city, and they retained this position for more than 100 years within the family. What is important for the chronicles at this time, the National Archives keep this record, is that the Chinese community support the King of Thailand. But the King of Thailand was very disappointed by the local communities, and we will see that this trend has been continuing until now, and that is the reason for which Songkhla, being a very small city, oh my goodness, being a very small city, is still the capital of the province. We find that there is a lot of meeting of different religions and influence. This is the chedi that marks one of the corners. It is supposed to be Kurds, or locals design it as Kurds, because everything that is constructed there is destroyed by lightnings. Chinese ritual experts were invited to find what is the best location to construct this sculpture. So there was a lot of intermingling of the different belief systems. The statue, the eyes are pointing at Songkla, giving the back at the Muslim community. That is going to be important later if I have time to develop all the points. Well, the city is being rebranded now in order to attract tourism. There is a local tycoon that is owner of hotels and has different buildings. Some of them are open museums. He's trying to create a Sino-Portuguese atmosphere, a little bit similar to the one in Penang, and trying to attract tourism. So for him, the statue is a perfect complement for the city. There is another project trying to bring the Songkla to the World Heritage Site. This is calling upon the historical, the history and the relationship with China. There is a lot of several Chinese universities are cooperating with it. There were different projects to revamp the city, attract tourism. So basically, the place is quite peaceful, and that's why this protest was quite surprising, because the different ethnicities and religions are living in a very harmonious way. So here comes the point: what is the problem with the One Belt One Road, and where is this coming from? I need more time. Yeah, well, Thailand started developing Thailand 4.0, a model of sustainability that demands a lot of development, because the idea is that Thailand is supposed to be totally autonomous in terms of energy and technology. That invites a very active role creating different economic projects, connecting with the One Belt, One Road, with a large support from China. There is different corridors interconnecting this region with Malaysia. We have trains connecting the region also with the north, with China, with the south. There is different economic zones. Here, what we have is this particular city, Songkla, is in between two major economic players, that is the ASEAN, all the countries in Southeast Asia, and Bengal. And since this month, there is a halal economic corridor that is trying to connect Songkla to the Muslim world. We were talking today about the halal, so this is just adding to this connection. So what is the local reaction to all these projects that are supposed to bring a lot of development? So what we find in this particular region is a total rejection of most of these projects. This rejection has been historical. It's more than 30 years rejecting projects non-stop, because they are considered to be detrimental to the local culture, to their health, because they are very polluting. And they have been fighting in a very active way, sometimes very violently, against the government. One of the ways in which this protest and this fighting was activated was by discovering what was going to be the way to create a pipeline and building a mosque exactly on top of this way. So in order to stop it, the government was very, very quick, moved the path 5 kilometers and was able to bypass it. So this project was successful after 7 years, but there are other projects like different canals, land bridges. This one was coal-fired power, and this connects with the presentation, because it's the same company that is trying to build the statue, is the company that was trying to make these power stations. These powers were totally stopped. It was a very successful protest. There is another major project. This is a massive one, that is a smart city in China, that has been stopped this month in August until proof that it is bringing advantage to the local community. And again, this is a project that is totally sponsored. The major patron is the company that is trying to build this statue. This is the TPI Polen group. So the question is why they are trying to build the statue, because the official version is They are trying to bring tourism into the region, which the statue can do the job if we apply the same model that we have in Chiang Rai in the north. But because of the background of 30 years fighting the local community, one cannot stop but wonder that maybe there is something more involved on this particular statue. So it could be used as a negotiation card when they are trying to implement this China Smart City. They can offer to stop the statue in exchange for the approval from the local community. Can be simply revenge. They are so angry after 30 years of fighting these communities that they want to do something that is detrimental to them, that is to put this statue, and because it's religion, people don't have the same right to protest as was other type of project, like the pipelines or the gas. So whatever the reason, if it is moving on, the landmark, as a landmark, is going to have a very strong impact. We don't know if it is going to happen or not. So on the one hand, this statue is going to be built in a private land. So the company has all the right to build a statue. But the local community has a lot of experience. They have developed a very complex and very efficient technique to counteract the central government and other projects, as we have seen before. Almost, they have success in stopping almost every project that they didn't like coming to their own land. And there is still one car that is pending, that is the violent car. This week, 5 people were killed in a car bomb. 3 days before I visited the region, there was another car bomb that killed another 3. In total, more than 7,000 people have been killed by terrorist attacks in this particular region with, well, you can say the statistics, 20,000 accidents when ending the hospital with different degrees. But 7,000 were killed, including the mayor of Songkhla and many activists. So the killings go in both directions. The region, as you see on the bottom, is not covered by insurance. So if you travel to this particular region and you are subject to a terrorist attack, nobody's going to pay the bills because it's out of insurance companies. So this is the Golden Mermaid I talked at the beginning. So not all the statues are out of bounds. 2018, there was a bombing in one of the most touristic beaches in Songkhla. The statue was partially destroyed. So the bombing is an element that is part of the negotiation, of the dialogue that we need to take into account. And that's why having this Schrödinger cat there, we will not know what happened with the statue until maybe 10 to 15 years, because I don't think it's going to happen soon. Well, that's the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Jos, for sharing such fresh insights from your very recent field work. It's really a treat. And I would like to invite our discussant now, Michel Chambon, to present his comments.
Okay, so last comment, bear with me. First, thank you very much to the 3 speakers for your very stimulating, rich presentations. So I got 2 papers in advance and discovered the 3rd one with you, which is very interesting. So I would like to first point sort of the overarching themes and then address each paper or presentation. So unlike we may have heard, I think in this panel, we see a clear case of the exportation of Chinese religious and cultural elements to the outside world. We see religious elements with Chinese labels that goes in the Southeast Asia region. The question behind, in my sense, is what is Chineseness? And also, how do we define a religion? Is it something Chinese coming to us, or is it just something religious? So there is this always open conversation of what is this cultural identity and this religious entity. In mainland China, we talked a lot about the Sinicization Sinicization of religion. Even Taoism is supposed to be called to sinicize itself. So this relationship between the Chineseness that no one knows how to define and a religion that is also a category hard to define is a very highly contested one, either in China or either outside of China when China engage with its neighbors. And this Sinicization is of course about political submissions, but it's also about cultural continuity and coherence, transmission. It's about, of course, national unity and resilience, social and modernist expectations. So in this case, it's not in China, but it's outside. When China goes out, bringing religion with itself, or Chinese going out, bringing religion with itself. First to Huaran, we see that very well in Cambodia, but also to non-Chinese people, as we see in southern Philippines. The three papers bring clearly the question of what is religion. So is it about language? Is it about a statue? Is it about performance? What's the agency of those three different examples, like language, performance, and a statue? And we see different kind of actors trying to define and solve those questions. We see state actors, of course, businessmen, and sometimes religious actors, of course, as well. In the case of Cambodia, with Richard and Joseba in South Thailand. So, first paper, Richard, Mandarin education in Yiguandao in Cambodia. Well, it's you exploring a very complex and multidimensional issue when we look at the expansion of Yiguandao outside of Taiwan. So I think it's very smart of you to focus on a very specific nexus, the issue of language and religious proselytism in that specific case. We may want to question a little more on what is or how do we define Yiguandao? What is its intimate relationship with the Chinese language? Because that's usually, how to say, there are other things that could be important for some religions, rituals, practices, or food. In this case, it seems to be really about language. So that creates a specific dynamic to the relationship to Chineseness. We see similar things with Islam and the Arabic language. One thing that I really would like you to explore in detail is precisely how do they teach Chinese in those schools and how do they use that to promote their religion? As most of you might know, I try to be an expert on Catholicism, and I've been interviewing many French, but not only French, missionaries going to China and teaching French and using French as a vector to introduce their students to Christianity. And yet the relationship between Christianity and French is kind of loose. I don't think it's the same with Yiguandao. So that might be interesting to address how they use it, but how they force also to engage with language. And for some religions, it's very crucial. We don't change the language for Christianity, except for maybe some people obsessed about Latin in the Catholic Church, but for most people, it doesn't really matter. So, but on the other hand, what are the advantage and disadvantage for relying so much on Chinese language and the teaching of Chinese? Because again, to go back to the Catholics, when they relied, especially during the colonial period, to Frenchness to transmit a religion, the missionaries were highly aware that was not just coming with advantages of the support of the French colonial power. So what are the risks when you associate so much with a certain Chinese identity? And so I was in Angkor a few months ago now, and Chinese disappear. But I will come back on that later. And so the next question with this Chinese-ness is also what about Taiwan and the Taiwanese-ness in this story of Yiguandao that is redefining the way, I don't know, I'm not an expert at all on Yiguandao. So which kind of internal transformation do we see or are going on inside Yiguandao that explain why Yiguandao get out of mainland China and now is trying to get out of Taiwan, and yet bringing with itself the Chinese language. So in other sense, I'm asking you, how is your case studies, that is, I think, very fascinating and smart, adding to the book of Sébastien Biou? Because I'm sure you have something to add. And on a more fundamental question, in the context of Cambodia, with all we know about its political and religious history, the footprint of Buddhism there, what counts for conversion? Because it's easy to, we know that even with Catholic missionaries, to claim, oh, we baptized that many people. Oh yeah, but as soon as you stop feeding them, they don't come. So, same in that case, what counts as conversion? Where do we draw the line? Is there a real change there? Of course there is, but how do we characterize? Anyway, let's move on Enhua paper on spectacular performances and Buddhism in China and Angkor. Again, a very vivid description and a rich analysis. So in the paper on two performances in China, and I really enjoy the additional facets on Angkor through your presentation. And yeah, and you show that it's a trend. There is something. And again, I think that's an extremely smart focus. This cultural religious object, this big grand performance, I think that's a very stimulating way to think about the globalization of religion when China goes out, or Chinese more precisely. Yet, either in your paper or your oral presentation, you bring 3 case studies. So you're doing a good job in focusing on 3 specific case studies, and yet I still think you need to decide and focus even more and narrow down where you want to go with all of this, because it's so rich. And I think you have something, you have a piece of gold there. Do you want to focus more on the project and intention of the producers? Would you like to focus also on the audience and the reception? Because we haven't heard at all about them, the people watching. What does it do? Who are they? Where are they from? Those tourists. Would you like to focus more on the broader socio-political context? Because either we are in Angkor or Tonghuan, it's really not the same. Or also about the dancers and all the people around us performance. So I really think we need to hear more about religion also. How are those performances received? You mentioned how are they received? Sorry, so it's more about the audience, and also how they, why in some cases they fail. You mentioned several times, so it doesn't necessarily work. So you have all kind of possible paths of exploration here. And I think it's very important that we also need to distinguish each case because they are situated in very different socio-political context and religious. So for instance, in Angkor, Buddhism, Angkor is central to the national identity of Cambodia. And yet in Angkor, Buddhism is paradoxal because when Buddhism came, the Khmer Empire collapsed. So it's where in China, it's different. Buddhism is paradoxal because it's always mixed with other things and it's a Chinese byproduct, but it doesn't bear the same cultural political meaning. So I would not dare to quote or steal from a famous book written by a famous person in this room, But I would say that Buddhism should be envisioned as a question, something that bothers. So we see different actors in your story borrowing, using Buddhism, religion in general, and yet it's not just religion and Buddhism in this case. It's not just some kind of passive cultural tool that we can borrow and manipulate as we wish. Of course, we try, but that may have all kind of consequences. I really like what you said on technology and totality, performance and religion. I think you need to engage with all sorts of conversation linked to liturgy, because in this, you are describing a modern, sophisticated liturgy that religion have been, or religious actors, clergies have been trying to do for thousands of years. It may appear, and it might be at the first level, something about tourism and economy, but it's clearly a religious liturgy that is presented to those people passing by, those pilgrims, because we can see also tourists as pilgrims. So it's not that something that is as new as they try to brand it. They engage and mobilize religious actors in a way that, yes, have been done for a long time. And liturgical practices, there are many theories and debates. Just as an insight in the Christian world that I worked on more, Orthodox liturgies are built as the audience is watching what's going on in heaven. It's really about watching and listening, where in a more modern Catholic tradition is we are joining, we are participating and engaging in dialogue with deities. And so that's even inside Christianity, there are different ideologies about those, which kind of performance we build and how do we position the different actors in this. Also, what you said about vibrations, I think you might have come across the work of Birgit Meyer on sounds and soundscape. I think that will help to give more flesh or anthropological insights on what those performances produce. But same with the work of Will Peterson on processions in the Philippines and the secular mobilization of religious entities. So let me move quickly to the work of Joseba on Guanyin in South Thailand. So it's a construction of a statue in a highly contested land region. To make it clear, my main question will be, how is this case study that I think absolutely fascinating bring something new to the book written by Michael Garrison, Buddhist Furry, where he described really well how the Thai monarchy is using supposedly non-violent Buddhism to colonize Muslim land, Malay land, in a very, very violent way. From the Thai side, it's not violent, it's all love and civilization, but from the Malay side, it's not. So in this case, we're not sending monks to live among people, we are building up a statue. When you say that this statue is something, well, yeah, it's highly contentious for Muslims, you say it's not the problem per se. I'm not a Muslim, but my understanding is that statues are like idols. And so it's really not a natural object. A physical representation of a deity on a Muslim land, that size, facing China or Thailand and the back to Malay people. I think that statue has a lot of agency on its own. And so it's highly, yeah. And it's standing up statue. It's even not laying down Buddha. Well, no, sorry, all matters. So to go back to the book on Buddhist theory, I think in your case, I would be curious to question a little the relationship between the TPI company and the state that you haven't talked that much about, the crown. A crown that is enforcing Buddhism, but with a king that is the incarnation of a Hindu deity. So that's also an interesting religious dynamic. And in this case, in partnership with Chinese actors. So there's an alliance about, yes, religion is good to secure colonial, territorial expansion for both the Thai crown and the Chinese Navy. Okay, I think this is enough for me. I have something to say, but that's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michel, for these thoughtful comments. Actually, I would like to invite you, along with the three presenters, to gather around the table here, and maybe I can ask you to first respond to the discussant comments, maybe selected comments if you are not able to respond to everything, and then we can welcome questions from the audience. And I just want to highlight, yes? Oh, okay, maybe after, yes. And I just want to, okay. I just want to highlight that we have a little less than 30 minutes for the Q&A. So this is less than most of the Q&A sessions that were 45 minutes. Okay, yes, please.
So to respond the questions and the comments, yeah, there are so many questions. So I will pick maybe 3 or 4 questions to answer first. The first is, what's the connection between the Mandarin language and the Yiguandao belief? Cambodian case, the uniqueness of Yiguandao case is that in other countries, Yiguandao does not emphasize teaching Mandarin, teaching Chinese that much. And for Cambodia, Yiguandao, I think it's just because the population wants to learn Mandarin. So they make use of this chance through teaching Mandarin to recruit new members. So it's not really integral part of the belief itself, but it's just an expedient means in Buddhist term. And secondly, the pros and cons of relying so much on teaching Mandarin. The obvious cons is that the Yiguandao temples are filled up with so many Cambodian students, but then once they learn Mandarin to a certain level, they will disappear. That's so in common in Cambodian Yiguandao temples, and they are the missionaries, Yiguandao missionaries there, keep rethinking about the Mandarin classes in the temple. Is that really crucial? Is that really efficient? Is that really effective for the missionary work, or they should try to not put so much emphasis on it? So there are some branch or sub-branch of Yiguandao temples in Cambodia that they are starting not to teach Mandarin class because they think it will all in vain because people come and go. So and it also has to do with the first question because as I said, it's just an expedient means. Once this means does not really work out, so they are thinking to really localize, to indigenize the belief in Cambodia. They should just focusing on the Khmer culture and the Khmer language itself, and then try to discover the elements of Tao in those local cultures and religions as a way to promote the Yiguandao belief. So that speaks to another questions about what kinds of conversion is it? So for Yiguandao is their ideas is that what they are promoting is not really a religion, but a Dao is like a Dharma or like a truth. So it is totally compatible with any other religions. So for them, even the like the Yiguandao practitioners for decades, they still can go to a Christian church or any kinds of temples of different religions. They think they are all compatible. So it's really tricky to define what kind of conversion it really is, because they always discovering what they find significant or what they find related to the Tao they are practicing within other religions. So that's the my answer to that kind of question about the conversion itself. So what I can add onto the Professor Delio's book is that what he focused on is the Confucian revival and the Yiguandao's development from Taiwan to Hong Kong and then to mainland China. So I think my what I can offer is after the Confucian revival, after the development in mainland China, the followers from China nowadays will go abroad to other countries to spread the Confucianism, because that is the core value of the Yiguandao belief itself. So it's the development after the Confucian revival. I think I will just stop here first. Maybe later I will talk about more.
Thank you so much, Michel, for your insightful comments. And I think I summarized like three questions. The first one is about reception. The major channel to collect reception is different forums, the kind of like, the equivalent of YouTube in China, like, Zhihu, Douban, and, those websites. And the reception, the responses are completely like, just split. The one side is like, love it, so much, oh, I strongly recommend you get, it's a must see. The other side is like, oh, it's such just cater like low brow, it's understandable. So, I mean, fair to say both sides, both, the responses from both sides are valid, but it's really hard to judge, how many people actually, how many audiences are really, like it or hate it, because we can never collect enough samples to argue one way or the other. So because I want to, before I wrote a paper, I just consult the scholarship about the reception. I feel like, that's a major flaw in other people's reception, saying like, oh, here I collect the samples. But, we all know, like, because the sample is not comprehensive, a lot of people who like it, didn't express anything. And so vice versa. And I think, in my own approach to these performances, I need to avoid two things. One thing is the intentional fallacy, like, okay, the director said, I want to present an epic. It's not an epic. And so, and I want to do this, but, claim one way or the other. And then if you compare the words I'm training, I'm trained to read between the lines. And then so I can find a lot of contradictions within the director's words. So, and the director never mentioned, I really want to make a lot of money based on this show. But she admitted like, oh, every year I receive 100 invitations from all over China, but where I want to make the show is purely decided by how many tourists we can get. So it's all about money. So, and this is nothing new because, during the marketization, culture converted into capital. So the same principle. That's one thing. Another thing is why do some cases fail? So this is market practice. So basically, if they spend too much money and they couldn't get enough audiences, and then they lose money because they, the way they invest on these shows is all in. So it's like, pretty much, 0.1 billion to start with. And it has a lot to do with the weather, the climate. For example, the one in Shaolin Temple in Henan, because it's so cold. Once like in starting October, and people cannot bear with the coldness outside in the evening. So, and also, I think that also worsens the scenario. And you are completely right, you know, the religious liturgy. But I think what really differentiates these, I call, you know, the either total theater or extravaganza, the spectacular performances, whatever you call it. What really differentiates these from the religious liturgy is like, you know, you don't charge people tickets like for religious liturgy or like very high price. You know, this these and these shows like they charge, you know, the lowest price for the ticket is about 300 RMB at least. And that's high can go like, you know, about 1,000. So this is why Smile of Encore is primarily like, you know, Chinese audience. So it's made by Chinese, for Chinese, about Cambodia, and the food is all Chinese food. Well, sometimes you got some foreign tourists to see Smile of Encore. It doesn't affect their appreciation, even though they don't understand the language, because really not much narrative to begin with. I think, yeah, and thank you for the literature. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And sorry for not having a paper to present in advance. As I say, I just came back from the field work and this is what I had. But thank you for the comments on the go. I really appreciate them. Yes, the connection with the king is there at several levels. The tycoon I was mentioning in my presentation had a very special friendship with the previous king. Every king that comes to Songkla stays in his house. He has the old house that the kings visit, and it is what they usually overnight. And the new king came already and stays in this house, and he has many pictures in his boutique hotel in which he is displaying his relationships with the kings, with ambassadors. It is a very well-connected person. He owns gold shops all around the region. Is multimillionaire. And then the company is an even higher level. It is totally well connected with the royal house, and it is actually the company that the royal house is using to spirit the kingdom to the south. So yes, totally well spot. Totally agree also with the statue. I'm still figuring out if it is a performance or it's going to be a real statue. At this moment, what the company is doing is trying to expand itself in terms of buying land, starting to build resorts. And in the worst scenario, it's going to be an extension of the Songkla corridor for tourism that is expanding in direction to Patani to the south. So even if they stop there, it's going to be a very good business for the company because it means they will have a touristic corridor that is going to attract a lot of people. And by selling the land, they are going to displace a lot of critics with their own products. So even if the statue is not happening, there is other benefits for this company. And my personal opinion in the topic is if they gather enough momentum, enough investors, and enough money and enough land, they might proceed with the statue because it could be a game changer totally in the region, expanding the area that is now more Thai and Buddhist and signified, let's say that, and bringing the Muslim, more activistic oriented region to the south. But it's something that we are not going to see now. It's going to take at least 10 to 5 years. Yeah, but again, thank you for the comments.
Right, thank you very much for these responses. So maybe I'll gather 3 questions and then we will see about our timing. So Kamaru-sama will go first and then Emily and David. Thank you.
Jose, I have a quick question about the response from Chulamontri. You know, Chulamontri, one the Islamic Council, the highest one in Bangkok, how they respond about this project. That's my first question. The second is there any relation between this process, this protest in Satun, Songkla, and also some area with deep south Yala, Patani, Naratiwat? Is there any connection in terms of relation between the separatist groups in Patani, Yala, Naratiwat? The last one is, can you brief us more? I'm wondering if you can give us the dynamics of Islam in southern Thailand, because I live in Nakhon Si Thammarat for 2 years, 20 years ago, same the period. So I know the Nakhon Si Thammarat more moderate, where the deep south is more radical or fundamental fanatics. I think that's all. Thank you. Kapuma Kap.
Thanks for all of these amazing papers and presentations. So interesting. Just a couple of quick questions for Joseba. So I just was wondering if this particular statue and this tycoon are affiliated with one denomination, or some kind of group of Buddhists, and if it's connected, like if it's networked in any way that way. Oh, I just forgot my second question. Well, that's enough for now. Oh yeah, sorry. Not a question. I just wanted to alert you to one sort of a slightly similar, very different case in terms of the politics of the region. But there's this one Guangdi statue in Tuban in Java, on the island of Java in Indonesia, that was built. And then it became controversial, and then it was covered with a cloth, and now it's being destroyed. And so it might be an interesting case to just look at comparatively.
Thanks. Great papers, everybody. So just because we're not enough time to ask everybody, but I have for Richard. So you talked a lot about the relationship between Taiwanese government and Yiguandao here. But what about Chinese government? Right. So Yiguandao is really interesting because both as a banned religious organization in mainland China, but also one of the most enthusiastically pro-unification groups in Taiwan, right? And so which has a pretty subtle relationship. Yiguandao has or has had a pretty subtle relationship with the Chinese government. I don't know how that's evolved in the past few years because I kind of lost touch with this issue. But I remember it was about 10 years ago, I was even witnessing some of these interactions between Yiguandao and Religious Affairs Bureau of China. So now we have Yiguandao in Cambodia promoting Mandarin education, becoming a main actor in the promotion of Chinese soft power, basically, and educating people who are going to be working for China, not only Taiwanese, but also mainland Chinese investors and businesses, making them, just helping to integrate them into Sinosphere, and undoubtedly within the Chinese circle in Phnom Penh, I'm sure a lot of people know what's going on, including mainland Chinese, that they know that all these people are learning Mandarin. Do they know? I mean, I'm sure they know, or do they? That all these people are learning Mandarin in Yiguandao. So does the Chinese ambassador know? I mean, at all these gatherings, social gatherings among different Chinese people, like what, so what are the mainland kind of government people, what's going on between them and these Yiguandao people and those that Yiguandao has taught Chinese? Yeah.
Okay, I go for the first part. The response from Bangkok has been always quite complex. They try to play in the beginning, decades ago. There was a very active military approach before the junta took over I mean, before Taksin, actually Taksin was the one was being very hard with this separatist movement. It didn't work well because the more violence that was coming from the state, the more violence was coming from locality. So they come the policy after Taksin to try to get the minds and hearts from the local people. There was an active policy that in the media was portrayed as a very successful, but it was not. It was the tourist attacks continue. I will say they were even more violent than before because there were less army taking control. And right now it's well, Bangkok has enough problems dealing with all the political situation at the moment. And the question with the South was more about how politics operate in Thailand and which are the expectations, who is going to receive the votes from these communities. Because I will come back to this point again, because it is connected with the second question. All these communities vote almost as a group because they have the most organization and it is very well coordinated. And it was very clear last year that all the mosques were saying that if there was not a positive response, they were not going to vote to those parties who were not giving the support, let's say that. So then come to how these mosques are organized. And then what we see is a transition. As you know, in Nakhon Marathis, it is quite mild. Songkla, I will say, is the same. I was visiting the mosque. It is open doors. Everybody is very nice, very friendly. We were discussing. There was a very open discussion and debate on the topic. When you go closer to the place where the statue is, when I was in the village that is next to it, you can feel that there is the nerves are more in the skin. People is more sensitive because they are building. There is a plan to build the statue next to them, and I mean, I think people doesn't imagine what means 200 meters, because most of the statues that we have as the tallest in the world, like the ones that were shown in the picture, are 70. This is almost 3 times the tallest one that we have is almost twice the tallest statue in the world. So it means that wherever you are in the whole province, you're going to face this statue, yes, in front of you. And it doesn't matter if you are Buddhist or not. If you wake up in the morning and you have this cement monster in front of you, you are probably not going to like it. But then comes how the Islamic organization is arranged in this particular area, and it's based on the mosque. So what we have for this particular event is more than 400 mosques. That is basically all of them going to the south, coordinate themselves to send representatives. There was this picture in which people were having food together, and there were 4,000 people. So each mosque was sending a small group of men to run it. For this event, other events, what we see is they are sending women because they want to send the message that we are pacifists, we are not using violence, we want to dialogue, this is negotiation. And then they send the women who are in a very lovely and pacific way, showcasing exactly this dynamic. At the same time, what everybody knows is that if the negotiation is not going into the line that these particular groups are proposing, there is still a hardcore element that the closer you go to the Malay border, the more active they become. And they're very active. I don't think there are too many. I mean, there's always the gambling, how many active elements do we have in these particular terrorist groups, but you only need to have a few hundreds. We know that from Europe. You have 500 people, you can keep a war going on for 10, 20 years without a problem. So you only need one person to make a bomb, and they are very easy to construct. And then you just put the bomb into a touristic place and you can stop everything. And that connects a little bit with the second question, that was how this tycoon is seeing all this process. And that comes in this contest in which Songkla was proposed to be part of the World Heritage. There was a lot of investment because this particular person bought, I think, more than 20 buildings. The most beautiful buildings in Songkla are owned by one single person who make a full renovation of them, bringing up a particular style that he considers is Sino-Portuguese. We can discuss if he is right or not, but they look very nice. And when you are walking the streets now, it looks very appealing. It looks Chinese, but also European, and it's really working in terms of attracting tourism. And he opened various museums, and then they developed a whole beach area, Samila, where you have these statues with the golden mermaid and the cat and the mouse that represent all these stories, the foundation of Songkla. And there was an aquarium that now is closed. It closed in 2018 after the bombing of the beach. So all these developments would create a wave of violence that stops tourism from coming to Songkla, and that is totally detrimental for the development of the city. So it is difficult to find a path. So most of them are against bringing matches to the gasoline. At the same time, there is a very active, and that connects when you comment before. We have a very active and strong Thai movement from Bangkok, expanding Thainess everywhere that has been there for the 1930s and continues.
Thank you, Professor Palmer. In my fieldwork, I did not see any direct interaction or negotiation between the Chinese government and Yiguandao in Cambodia, but like the officials, of course, they know what Yiguandao is doing in Cambodia, but they don't really pay attention to the religious dimension, but focus on the dimensions of education and human resources. Oh, Yiguandao temples has many Chinese Khmer interpreters. Okay, I'll hire them, but they don't really talk about the religious activities that Yiguandao is doing. Like last month when I was doing field work in Cambodia, I noticed there were some Cambodian followers. After they learned Mandarin in the temples, they were hired in the Confucius Institute. Like, because besides the teachers from China, they also recruit some local teachers teaching Mandarin in the Confucius Institute. And because nowadays, if a Cambodian individual who can speak Mandarin really well, they don't want to be a Mandarin teacher. The money, the salary is too low. They want to work in the real estate. They want to be doing business. So they lack Mandarin teachers so much. So they want the Mandarin teachers from Yiguandao temples so much. So that's why the Confucius Institute also hires some Mandarin teachers from Yiguandao. That's my observations last month.
Unfortunately, we need to hit the pause button if we are to stick to time, but I want to encourage everybody to continue the discussion during a 15-minute break. And then we will have, my understanding is that we will have final comments from Tansen and David. Thank you.